Okay, welcome back. Appreciate everybody moving quickly and taking your seats, and we'll keep things rolling right now. Again, with a very quick intro, we're very pleased to have Twilio on the keynote stage for the first time ever. Twilio is one of the companies that's really changing this industry and changing what it means to do enterprise communications. So we're very happy to have the CEO, founder, and chairman of Twilio, Jeff Lawson.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be here today. Thank you very much. So, as a quick background, I'm not here today to try to sell you a particular call center solution or a particular collaboration solution. What I'm here to sell you on is an idea of a different way of doing things. And the reason why is there is a change going on in our industry and in technology and in just the global world of business that we all have to understand. And to understand this change, I think it's best to start by contemplating the artisanal pickle. Handmade, lovingly crafted, small batch, locally produced in Brooklyn by Todd and Beth. Here's their facility. Admire Todd's beard. It's very nice. But this concept is not a hipster thing, right? This is a movement to rehumanize business, to bring people and relationships back into how we interact with each other, and to put human scale back into play. And it's not just about pickles. It's handmade goods bought on Etsy. It's staying in somebody's house on Airbnb as opposed to one of 1,000 identical hotel rooms. And this isn't about being fancy. It's about being human. It's a throwback to that time when you went to a small shop and the shopkeep knew your name and asked you how the kids were doing. But somewhere along the way, we lost this, around the mid of the last century. See, what happened is in the post-war era, the baby boomer days, right, we invested in technology and mass production and automation, and you got things like Velveeta cheese slices. And this was progress of its time, right? Mass production, cheap goods. But it swung too far. Because now in the millennial era, people are begging for a return to humanity. See, the anonymity of all of this is dehumanizing our customers. And people thought you couldn't do scale, but also do human at the same time. And the interesting thing is the same technology progress that created this dehumanization now has the potential to rehumanize it, to scale this personal interaction. And when you think about the state of business communications today, you can understand why we've applied the same methodology to business communications and how we interact with our customers. See, somehow the way companies interact with their customers is stuck in this inhuman world. IVRs, waiting on hold for an hour, repeating yourself who you are to call center agents 5 times in a row, mass emails that you can't reply to. These are the Velveeta cheese slices of business communications. Massive, impersonal, factory produced, inhuman. But people want businesses to treat them like humans again. And that's what we want our communications to do. See, it turns out that people don't want to be boiled down to a database entry or a primary key. They want to be treated like humans. And great businesses know that customer experience is built on this very concept, making you feel human. Brands like the Four Seasons, where you pull up in your car and they ask you if you have a reservation, and then when you walk up to the front desk, that person greets you by name. Makes you feel really good, right? But this isn't a matter of being fancy or expensive or a luxury. Being human is not a luxury, it's a right. And so customers that understand this and invest in the systems to actually make that happen are the ones that people are going to want to do business with. Now, I know what you're saying, right? Nobody wakes up every morning twirling their mustache, saying, like, how can I dehumanize my customers today? Well, except maybe cable companies. No, everybody wants to do this. It's just a matter of how. How are we going to get here? And the thing is, agility is the key to achieving this. Agility is the key to customer experience because customer experience is hard. It's really hard to build. And integrating with other systems is what you need. You know, your marketing automation systems, your Salesforce automation, your customer service history, your commerce systems. Bringing all these things together is what it takes to actually build that human experience. And some of those systems you own, you've bought, and other ones you don't even own. Things like Twitter, or texting, or Facebook, or Snapchat. Right? The pace of how this is changing, the number of things you have to consider to build that customer experience is massively accelerating. And this industry has given you the wrong tools for your new job. Think about it. If you have a website, the average time to overhaul a website is 6 to 24 months. Every 6 months to 2 years, you're building a new website. Mobile apps, on average, an update gets pushed out once a month to the popular mobile apps. A/B testing, you're probably doing that every single day on those platforms. But the tools you've had to actually have that level of agility in communications are all wrong. See, the industry has given you these tools that were based on the era of voice. And you think about it, voice, we started building out that voice network 100 years ago. And we've spent 100 years building that thing, laying wires all around and building infrastructure and making that thing work. And then about 20 years ago along comes SMS, and we've been building that for 20 years. And then 10 years ago comes mobile. And then 7 years ago comes WhatsApp. And 4 years ago, Snapchat. And 2 years ago, Alexa. You can see the pace of what's changing here. It's massively outstripped by that legacy of the 100 years. And if you need to see this visualized, I've got a Venn diagram here. The number of people who understand Cisco Call Manager overlapping the number of people who understand Snapchat. That's one person there in the middle. Some awesome dad somewhere out there. It's a completely different pace for what we're doing now. See, the communications systems, and by that I mean the stuff, the gear, the software, the people who built them, the people who now you have to hire to customize them, they're an offshoot from a different era. That era where you built a network mostly comprised of hardware, physical networks, and you'd spend decades getting it right. It's designed for an era when you wanted to do one thing only, do it constantly again and again and again, and never change it. That's where telephony comes from. But when I talk to customers, the number one thing that I hear is how hard it is to change these systems that you have. Now, sometimes you can do it, but it comes at a horrible cost. And I mean that both literally and figuratively. See, every time you want to make a change, you're going back for more professional services. It's a bottomless pit. And ProServe is giving up your roadmap to another company. You can see it, right? Here's the Cisco professional services homepage, having a nice conversation about their ProServe bill. Or here's Avaya's professional services. Every time your business changes, every time there's new customer preference you're trying to meet, every time a new system comes online, every time somebody has a new idea, you have to go back to your Avaya consultant to get even the smallest changes made, let alone try out some new big idea. In fact, it's interesting. I think she actually looks adequately concerned about where this is all going. But here's what she's asking. Like everybody else who's ever bought into these traditional infrastructure pieces, they're asking, why, after spending millions of dollars deploying a communication system, can't I get what I actually want? That's the question that's on everybody's mind. Now, I know one thing the industry might tell you. Well, here's why, right? It's about reliability. It's about 5 nines. That's why we move slowly. Everything needs pro-serve to get it right. Well, I have a story for you. It's a story about a pager. I was meeting with the CIO of a medium-sized public company. This was a couple years ago. And she's telling me about her on-prem call center installation, Cisco, and how proud she was of all the bells and whistles they'd put on it. When her pager goes off, right during our meeting, beep, 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 beep. She pulls it out, she looks at it, she says, I'm not making this up, she says, for the love of God, our Cisco call center is down again. And so this piqued my curiosity, as you might imagine. And I asked her, I said, well, how reliable would you say it is? And she said, 2 nines, 99.0. Why? Because it's only as reliable as you can invest the time and the energy in buying more things to actually get that operational excellence yourself. So let me get this straight. The legacy way we do communications, it's not agile, it's not reliable. What is it? I don't know, but it seems to come with a pager. What you want is something to meet this agile goal. You want something that's customizable, that's fast to deploy, that is low risk, and that is resilient in order to stay ahead of the curve. You want it to be customizable because no two companies are identical. And to build your customer experience, by definition, it needs to be unique to your company because that's how you're differentiating yourself from your competition. So you need to build something that's customizable to your systems, your workflows, your customer, and your customer experience goals. It needs to be fast to deploy because you need to be able to iterate. You need to be able to build something and then learn from your customers and push out a new version after you learn more. So instead of spending months engaging in sales conversations and pro-serve contracts, you get straight to the innovation that you want. It needs to be low risk, which means both low risk in terms of dollars invested in it up front, time invested up front, because the lower risk it is to try and experiment, to build something new, the more of those experiments and the more of those things you're able to build. So low risk. And then last, it needs to be resilient. There's no point in investing in great customer experience if it's not going to work every time. It has to work every time. And the thing is, you can have it all. You just have to think about the problem a bit differently than you have in the past. See, this is where Twilio comes in. Instead of buying big, monolithic applications, installing them, having to scale them, and then trying to bang them into submission to get them to do the things you want them to do, cloud APIs offer the answer to all of these downfalls to the traditional way of buying communication systems. We call this a cloud communications platform. We created the category when we launched Twilio in 2008, and IDC named us the leader in this space. Now let's talk about what a cloud communications platform is. It's not an app like you typically think of most software things that you buy, but it's a set of flexible, proven cloud APIs. Our major ones are programmable voice, programmable messaging, programmable video, programmable wireless, authentication, and more. In fact, in total, we have over 50 different APIs in 16 different product families. And you can use these APIs like building blocks to put them together and to build all the unique experiences that you're trying to build. And there are several key differences between cloud APIs and what you're used to buying. First of all, they're designed for integration. See, we're not some company that's bolted APIs onto an existing thing and said, haha, APIs. That's the new buzzword, right? We're not an application. That means we haven't made all the assumptions about what it is you're trying to do. We haven't made all those assumptions. You're not limited by those. You don't have to bang it into submission, right? And what that means for you is you're not constantly trying to jam a square peg in a round hole. No, it's natural. And that's why companies like Salesforce, when they wanted to integrate calling into their Sales Cloud, so that every salesperson on the planet can use Salesforce to make their phone calls. And they wanted to build their lightning voice feature. That's why they chose Twilio to power that, because they knew that they could get exactly what they wanted, because it was designed for integration at the beginning. The next thing is that Twilio is accessible by millions of developers around the planet. No Cisco certified Voodoo class you have to take. 21 million web and mobile developers around the world are capable of using the Twilio APIs. And what's in it for you is that you're already hiring this talent. In fact, every company is becoming a software company and hiring software developers. Right? Even a company like Nike now employs more software developers than they do shoe designers. Think about that. And so when Nike wanted to communicate with their customers about their shoe launches or authenticate their customers, they turned to Twilio and they had their web and mobile developers integrate Twilio. That's for a shoe company. The next thing that's different is Twilio abstracts the infrastructure complexity for you. For example, scaling. You don't have to worry about capacity planning anymore. Right? It just scales for you. Also globally. Right? Twilio operates, we have phone numbers in 50 countries. We can reach people in nearly every country and territory on the planet with voice and SMS and messaging. So you have one API to talk to nearly any person on the planet. And so when you want to expand, it just works. So why you should care about that is because you don't have to have these conversations about scaling and guessing where your customer base is going to go. You just talk about the experience you're trying to create, and the infrastructure just does the work for you. That's why Uber, when they started to scale globally, picked Twilio. And they went from one city to now operating in over 500 cities, in 80 countries, in just a few years. And the Twilio API lets them scale their customer experience as they did that massive, massive expansion. In fact, tens of millions, almost 100 million monthly interactions occur on Twilio, and we have never once had a conversation with them about capacity planning. Right? Completely different world. The next difference is that operational excellence is built right in. See, this isn't a piece of hardware, it's not a piece of software, you don't have to babysit it, you don't have to worry about it. It's in the cloud, it's scalable, it's reliable, it's secure, it's powering billions and billions of communications every month. In fact, annualized, we now do 100 billion API requests. And we have a religion of instrumentation internally, which is how we build all these services. And we're able to aggregate the expertise required to build and scale and make reliable these types of services for all of our customers. We have 5 nines availability of our API for the past 2 years. And we measure something we call our success rate. Well, what's the use in having an API if it's serving up errors? So we measure our success rate religiously. We have a 7 nines success rate on our API. We announced a couple of months ago we achieved ISO 27001 certification for security, and we have never once in the history of the company done a scheduled maintenance event. So what this means is that Twilio is just there for you. Right? I was in a customer conversation a few months ago. The customer asked me, what happens if a backhoe cuts the internet to Twilio? We're deployed in 22 data centers in 7 regions around the world. We don't think about backhoes. We worry about things like nuclear weapons taking out Twilio. It's a different way of thinking. And the thing that you get out of it is that this solution is actually available with 5 nines. It's not just a talking point that a salesperson tells you it's true. And that's why other world-class, at-scale operators know this. And we work with customers like Amazon on their new Amazon Connect product that we're helping to power. And you'll hear more about that in a few minutes from our friends at Amazon. And the last difference between Twilio and everything else you've ever bought is that this gets better all the time. And you don't have to do anything to make that happen. In fact, at Twilio, we now do 18,000 production deployments of Twilio per year. 18,000. And that's all done transparently to you. You don't have to do anything. Twilio just gets better all the time. And what do you get out of it? It's like our entire engineering team is also working on your application too, making it better every day. That's why customers like ING Bank, who has fully embraced Agile as the way they do business, turned to Twilio when they were building their call center 2.0 initiative. They're trying to consolidate 13 disparate legacy application monolithic systems operating in 12 different countries. They wanted to consolidate that down to one platform to serve everybody. And Rutger de Smet, the lead project manager on this, said, with Twilio, ING can treat their call center like software. And so those are just some of our over 36,000 customers building unique customer experiences on top of Twilio, and over 1 million software developers who have Twilio in their tool belt. And you'll notice these are companies of every shape and size, new and old, from everywhere around the world, who are now able to take advantage of these APIs. Now, I know what you're thinking. APIs and software, that sounds hard. Right? Is my company able to do that? Are we able to make this transition? Well, I can tell you this. If you can understand the Cisco Unified Communications Manager upgrade matrix, you can understand APIs. In fact, I'm going to show you. Let's write some code. So I'm going to do a demo of Twilio, but this demo isn't some pre-canned thing with some actors. I'm actually going to build it live on stage in front of your eyes, and you all play a part in it. So first thing is I'm going to go to my Twilio account portal here. And I'm going to go to the phone numbers area. And you can provision a phone number in real time. There's no tickets. There's no waiting weeks or anything like that. It just works. And we've got phone numbers in 50 countries that are available. And you can get it in real time. So I'm going to search for a phone number that actually has the phrase Enterprise Connect 17 in it, sort of anywhere in that number. I want a number that supports voice and SMS. And I'm going to search our inventory, a real-time inventory of phone numbers, and find one that suits our needs here. And you can do this via the API. You can also do it, obviously, via the portal here. And look, we got a bunch of phone numbers here. Let's see what we got. Which one do we want? How about this? I'll do this Seattle one because of our Amazon friends coming up next. So 206-483-2175. I'm going to buy this phone number. Supports voice, SMS, MMS. I'm going to click buy this number. There we go, I got this number. OK, great. So I'm going to click Setup. And what Setup does is it correlates this phone number to the code that I can write. And so for this one, I'm going to first set up what happens if you were to text this phone number. And to do that, I'm just going to create what we call a TWIML bin. It's just a little bit of XML that I type here. And it's very simple. I'm just going to write a response. And it's going to send a message back to you if you text in. And my message is going to say, thank you for expressing your lunch preference. See, here's the deal. I'm going to create this, and I click Save. All right, so now I want you all to take out your phones. Seriously, take out your phones. I know that's signed before, so put away your phones. Take them out. And I want you to send a text message to this phone number, but I want you to write is what you want for lunch. Because lunch is coming up soon, probably starting to get hungry. And one of four things: chicken, steak, fish, or pasta. One of those four things. Go ahead, text it into that phone number. And you'll see, you can text in some other smart-ass stuff, but it won't ruin the demo unless the Ethernet dies again. It'll just make the demo probably worse for you. But just text in one of those four things: chicken, steak, fish, or pasta. The thing that you'd want for lunch. And while you're doing that, I am going to go back to my code here. And because you all are interacting with this API, now all those requests are stored in Twilio's API, and you can use this data to actually power applications that you build. And so I'm going to write from scratch here a little script that's able to talk to Twilio's API. So I'm going to call it, I don't know, foo.js, a little JavaScript application here. And first, I'm going to instantiate the Twilio API by requiring our helper library here for Node.js. And then I'm going to say twilio.messages.list. And it'll get me a list of all the messages that have hit this API. And now I can limit it to just calls or messages that have been sent to our phone number here that we just provisioned. So I can do that. And I get back, once that API returns, a list of messages. And so for each one of those messages, I'm going to run a function. And I'm going to just log to the console the from, so that's the phone number that sent it. And maybe I'll say wants, and that's the lunch thing that you told us you wanted. Now, unless I've made some grievous error, I can say foo and run foo with Node, and it's going to talk over this beautiful Ethernet cable to Twilio's APIs, and it's going to request a list of all the messages that were sent and what you all wanted. Oh, look, you largely cooperated. Awesome. Good job, audience. So there's a list of what everybody wanted. Now, I'm going to change gears here for a second. So that's a quick demo, simple demo of how you could interact with someone via text message. But now I want to do something with voice. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build what we at Twilio like to call the worst conference call ever. Because you've all been on conference calls that are horrible, right? There's too many people. Nobody's unmuted, or everyone's muted. No one's muted. And there's no agenda for the meeting, right? Like, this is the worst conference call ever. So we're going to build that, but we're going to do conference calls, and we're going to talk about what it is we want for lunch. So I'm going to open up my editor again here. And I'm going to open up a new file here. And I'm going to use our mustache template system here. And I'm just going to build an XML file. And just like before, but this time I'm going to do some interactivity in it. So I'm running it on my Node server, which is running right here on my laptop. And in the response, I'm going to start by saying, thank you for calling. Oh, let me zoom to make this bigger. Nobody complained about that yet. Thank you for calling our call about, and here I'm going to do variable substitution and just put in the name of the food item that you all texted in. And then I'm going to dial a conference. And the name of this conference, so everyone who dials into the same named conference ends up talking to each other. So we're going to do that food item that you texted in earlier. That's what you're going to get into a conference. So all the people who wanted chicken are going to talk to the chicken people. All the people who wanted steak are going to talk to the steak people. That's what we're going to have. Now, I could take this, and I can go back here. And I've got my, my laptop here is on the internet with this tunnel. So I can throw this in the web browser just to make sure that that XML file I wrote is working. It is. And I can actually throw into here a food equals, I don't know, steak. There we are. It says, thank you for calling our call about steak, and then you're dropped into the steak conference. Very good. So now I can plug this URL into the phone number and have you all call back in, but I actually have a better idea. We're going to go back to our code here, and now for everybody who texted in, we're going to use Twilio to call you. So now everyone, while I'm doing this, I want you to take out your phones. Again, ignore the sign from before. Take out your phones. I want you to turn on the ringer as loud as possible. Breaking every conference rule here. And I'm just going to invert the from and the to, so you're going to get a call from this 206 number. The URL that it's going to hit when you answer the call is this one that I just wrote, but I'm going to add to it instead of putting steak in there. I'm going to encode in the URL the message body, which has your food preference. And now, if I go back to my console, and hopefully I haven't made a mistake again, and I run this, it's going to hit Twilio's API. It's going to get a list of everybody who's texted in earlier, and it's going to initiate a call to your phones and start a giant conference bridge with all of you together chatting about your love of fish and steak and pasta. Go ahead, answer those calls, talk about lunch. Look at that, all these connections coming in to the laptop. So that's it, right? If I can, in a few minutes, write some silly demos to get you all interacting with the confidence that's going to work for 3,000 people in an audience, and in just a few minutes get that stood up, get a prototype up and running, test it out, That's what you need to achieve agility and to start building towards great customer experience. And so I hope you all can check out more about our APIs. We'd love to see you downstairs at our booth. We'd love to see you at our conference, Signal, in May if you want to learn more. Thank you very much. You've been a great audience. Appreciate it.
Jeff, I'm sorry. Okay. All right, thanks very much, everyone. We're going to take just a very short break. Please stay here, and we'll be back just in a few minutes with our final keynote of the morning with Amazon Web Services.